And we are live. Hey, how are you doing? Lee Hayward here with another Total Fitness Bodybuilding live video Q&A for Friday, August the 8th. And this week, going to be hanging out here for the next hour answering questions and topics of discussion that you have related to fitness and nutrition. So if there's any specific challenges that you're having when it comes to your workouts, when it comes to your muscle building and fat loss goals, please feel free to type in those questions and topics of discussion into our chat window, and I'll do the best I can to help you out over the course of our video chat today. And we are streaming through the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel. We're also streaming through the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook page. So wherever you are tuning in from, be that Facebook or YouTube, you can interact and share your questions and topics and feedback through there as well. All right, again, just want to make sure this is coming through loud and clear. You can hear me and see me and all that stuff. See some people popping onto our live stream here. Got Lee joining in, coming through loud and clear. Much appreciated, Lee. I actually seen some video clips. I know Lee shares some video clips over on his social media. I believe it's Instagram of his strongman training. So again, kudos to that, man. It's pretty impressive stuff for sure. Thanks for sharing that. Who else we got joining in? We've got David joining in. Hello. Sound is perfect. Just a quick hello. Absolutely. Appreciate that. Thank you for letting me know that it is coming through loud and clear. We've got Johnny Rocks from the UK. Welcome to the video chat. Glad to have you joining in. Awesome. Good stuff. All is good here. Excellent. Glad to hear it. All right. So like I say, as people are popping onto our live stream, feel free to type in questions and topics of discussion into our chat window. And I just want to kind of give you a heads up. Last week, didn't have a live Q&A. Normally I do these every Friday, like more often than not. I do a live Q&A every Friday. We go live at 5 p.m. Eastern time with the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video Q&A. But last week, we went on a camping trip, and we were out to Terra Nova National Park, my family, my wife and son and me, and we had an awesome trip. We were camping in a tent, had 5 nights in the great outdoors, and thoroughly enjoyed it. It was so nice to just unplug from this stuff, from computers and technology and electricity, and just to be out in the outdoors enjoying nature. And I had a blast. We did a lot of hiking, did a lot of bike riding, even got out for a day of sea kayaking as well. Had an absolute blast. I shared some photos of our camping trip over on my Facebook page. If you're friends with me over on Facebook, you can see some of those photos there. And if you're not friends with me on Facebook, friend me up, right? If you're over on Facebook, or you can also follow me over on Instagram as well. But I am more active on Facebook. You know, we have the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook group. I have my personal profile. That's where I share a lot of, the day-to-day stuff over there. So if you are active over on Facebook, please feel free to friend me up, and I have my link down in the description below this video if you want to check it out. But again, I thoroughly enjoyed that, just to get away, unplug. And one thing I found is I slept so much better outside, just being outdoors 24/7. And I just slept like a log. I mean, I never had such a good sleep I can't remember when. Probably last time I went camping. It was the last time I had such good sleep. And I found it was just so nice to be in basically the rhythm that your body's supposed to be, because as soon as the sun set, I mean, like, that melatonin kicked in without any need of a sleep aid or anything like that. But as soon as the sun set, I mean, I started to feel tired. I go lie down, and I was out like a light. And man, it was so refreshing to be able to just do that. And that's something, try to mimic that in my day-to-day routine as much as possible. Like, I try to get to bed earlier and not stay up excessively late if possible. And I find that early to bed and early to rise, it tends to make me feel a lot better for sure. But that was the case when we were out camping, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. No need for an alarm clock or anything like that. Just Just let Mother Nature, let the sunset and the sunrise, right? Rise and set with the sun. It was awesome. Thoroughly enjoyed it. All right, who else we got joining in here? Let's see. Got some questions coming through. Awesome, good stuff. All right, well, I'm just going to start jumping into some of these Q&A here. All right, we'll see who's got the first question of the day. This is coming from Doodly Doo. I've been training and dieting my body, getting toner, but my weight doesn't change. Why? All right. Fair enough. All right, you've been training and dieting. Your body is getting toned. And let me clarify what the word toned is. Like, all tone means is you're building muscle and losing fat. Like, that's all you can do, right? If, as far as changing your body composition, I know like we use these different words like, oh, I don't want to be big. I just want to be toned. Well, you build muscle or you lose fat or a combination of both. That's it. There's no other way around it. That's the only two things you can do. So what you're probably doing if you're feeling more toned is that you're simultaneously building muscle while simultaneously losing body fat, hence the reason why your body weight isn't changing. And that's actually quite common. That's something I've seen with a lot of my coaching students. And this is where having an experienced coach in your corner and someone who can see beyond the number on the scale and look at other metrics and other measures of progress. Like, is your strength in the gym going up? Is your energy going up? How are your clothes fitting? How are your measurements? Because muscle weight is more dense than fat weight. Like, if you ever seen those pictures where they show like 5 pounds of muscle and 5 pounds of fat, the muscle is so compact, whereas the fat takes up like twice as much space, right? Like the fat mass is much more voluminous, but the muscle is more dense. So you could literally like gain a couple pounds of muscle, lose a couple pounds of body fat, and your clothes might feel better, but you wouldn't see any change on the scale. So you got to look beyond just the weight on the scale, because that's going to fluctuate and it can kind of skew you. Like, it's one metric, it's just one number. I'm not saying don't follow the scale. I mean, it is an important number for sure, but look at other metrics as well, because I mean, you could lose weight on the scale, but if you're losing strength, if you're feeling like crap, if you're getting weaker and all that kind of stuff, that's not a good sign either, right? So we want to look at the bigger picture and how you're progressing overall, not just is the weight going up or down, right? And it is possible. I mean, it's rare, but it is possible to actually gain weight and lose body fat at the same time. Now that's very rare. I mean, sometimes in a young person who's like in their prime for growth, that's possible, in like the newbie gains type of thing. But for most people, what you'll find is you'll gain muscle, lose body fat. The weight will probably stagnate or stay the same for a while, but eventually, if you keep pushing forward, you're going to find that the weight will drop, because it's harder to build muscle than it is to lose body fat. Like, to put things in perspective, you could realistically lose, a couple pounds of fat per week. With a good solid nutrition plan, good solid exercise program, it's very realistic to lose a couple pounds of fat per week. You're not gaining a couple pounds of lean muscle per week, right? Like, that would be good progress for a month, like of beginner newbie gains, to gain a couple pounds of muscle in a month. So if you continue down the road, like you're on, like proper training, proper nutrition, healthy lifestyle habits, all that kind of stuff, eventually the weight is going to start to mimic, the habits and the effort that you're putting in. But in the short term, you may not see that change initially. And very often there's a lag time between the effort you put in and the results that you see. So it's not like, hey, I do a day of exercise, I do a day of diet, and I see the changes tomorrow. Like, honestly, if you ate perfect today, you worked out today, you did everything right today, you're still going to look the same tomorrow. Vice versa. If you ate like crap today, you didn't exercise, you stayed up late, you did all the wrong things, you're still going to look the same tomorrow. Like, change doesn't happen instantly. There's a lag time, but it's what you do repeatedly. So if you stack multiple days of good habits, over time, you're going to start to see the fruits of the labor. You're going to start to see the results. Vice versa, if you have multiple days or multiple months or years of bad habits, eventually you're going to start to see the results of that. So don't get discouraged by the short-term results or lack thereof. Think bigger. Think, where do you want to be, not just this week, next week, this month, next month. Think, like, where do you want to be a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now? Like, think bigger, think further down the road, and think like the habits and the work that I'm putting in today, that's going to pay off a year from now, 3 years from now, etc. Like, think bigger. And if you kind of focus on that, that's when the changes are going to really start to compound, and people are going to be looking like, what the heck are you doing? Like, what's your workout routine? What's your diet plan? Like, what the heck's going on? When you have that big picture perspective and not just focusing on the short-term results or lack thereof. Okay. Now, with that being said, is there room for improvement? There probably is. So, I mean, if you would like to kind of like do an audit of your current training and nutrition program and to see how things are going and see if there's any room for improvement, feel free to reach out to me. We can chat about this, through Messenger or through email or something like that if you want to kind of do a deep dive into your own program there. All right, who else we have? We have Paul joining in. He says, what are tips to get your bench up more? I've hit 300. I really want 315, right? The coveted 315 bench, for sure. I can respect that. I do heavy days, 3 to 5 reps. I also incorporate close grip for the tries and paused reps. Any tips? Thanks. Yeah, I definitely do. I actually have a program that you can download. It's called the Blast Your Bench program. And it was actually the first program that I ever launched online back in 1997. It was the first thing I ever put out online. It was called Blast Your Bench, and it is a bench press specialization program. So you can go check that out. It's available over on blastyourbench.com. Right. That's an old website. Those of you who have been following me for a while probably remember that one, but I still kept it online, still the old original website and stuff. So go check it out, blastyourbench.com. That's one thing that I would recommend. But to kind of give you some different perspectives on how you can maximize your strength, you need to realize that there's multiple things that you need to train for. And it's not just heavy, low rep work. I mean, that's important. Don't get me wrong. But you need to train for speed. You also need to train for volume and to build up all the supporting and stabilizing muscles that come into play with the bench press. All right. So one of the things you'll find with the Blast Your Bench is it alternates heavy, low rep work, kind of similar to what you're doing here, along with higher, faster paced, higher volume work. Another one that's very effective too is dynamic effort work. And this is something that I learned about through the West Side Barbell style of training. Like, I remember back in the day when I was training for powerlifting, I followed a lot of the West Side Barbell training methods, and they had their max effort days and their dynamic effort days, where you would train heavy, low rep work, kind of what you're mentioning there. And then you would have the dynamic effort days where you'd be doing multiple sets of low reps, stopping short of failure with submaximal weights, but using maximum velocity, so maximum speed. And it's a totally different style of training where, like for the bench press, you would typically do 8 sets of 3 using about 60% of your 1 rep max and just blasting that weight as fast and as powerful as you can with good form. So focusing on almost like plyometric work, where you're just really, just using explosive, fast, powerful movements to complete the reps, and not this slow and controlled bodybuilding type of tempo, right? Because like when it comes to training, there's really no right or wrong. It depends on the situation and the circumstances. Like from a bodybuilding point of view, the slow and controlled, not using any momentum, that type of thing, that works for bodybuilding. Like that's maximum muscular tension. But for strength and power, you can use explosiveness and momentum to your advantage in the right ways. And this, with the dynamic effort work, is actually a way to do that, where you're incorporating the fast, explosive movements. And it's not this slow and controlled. I mean, a prime example, if you ever watch like Olympic weightlifters, There's nothing slow and controlled about what they're doing. Like, they're purposely using momentum and leverage to get that weight up. And that's the only way to do it. Like, you cannot slow and control, clean and jerk, a 300-pound barbell overhead. Like, it ain't going to happen. But if you use explosiveness and momentum and the right leverages and all that, you can get that weight up overhead. Same idea here. So you can utilize dynamic effort training to your advantage to help take your strength to the next level. And this is something that, unless you specifically focus on it, most people, this is kind of like untapped potential, because they're typically doing the slow cadence, time under tension type of work, more bodybuilding type training, and not actually activating that explosive fast twitch muscle fibers that you get with the dynamic effort work. So something you might want to consider. But if you're looking for a good place to start with the Blast Your Bench program. And then if you want to take things to the next level, you can kind of go start doing a deep dive into some other training methods. The West Side Barbell method, that was created by Louis Simmons, who's since passed on. Right, he created some world record powerlifters utilizing his training methods. Right, Elite FTS, Dave Tate has kind of taken over where Louis has left off. So if you want to go check that out as well, they've got some great information over there on their site as well. All right, who else we got there? Another question here. This is from Paul's Win. What's the best grip to generate the most power? It depends on how you're doing your bench press. If you're using equipment like a bench press shirt, you would want to use the widest legal grip that you can, which would be index fingers on the rings. That's the widest legal grip that you can use in powerlifting. But from a practical point of view, if you're not using a bench press shirt, when you go really wide like that, it places a lot more stress on the shoulders. Sure, you get the leverage, but leverage at the expense of more stress on the shoulder, and you're more likely to actually get a shoulder injury or pec tear if you're doing that wide grip. Right, the bench shirt actually helps to provide support and some protection there, because the shirt is taking a lot of the tension. But if you're using raw training, so no equipment, I wouldn't go overly wide. I would use more of a medium width grip. For me personally, that's ring finger on the ring. So my little pinky finger on the rings of the Olympic barbell, that's about as wide as I would go for a raw bench press. I find if I go any wider than that, it just places too much stress on the shoulders and risk of injury. So that's something that you can experiment with, because it's going to depend on how tall you are. I mean, obviously a taller person can probably grip wider, because in proportion, it's the same for their body type. A shorter person's going to need to grip narrower, because again, based on their leverages and their limb length and stuff like that. But don't go overly wide, because the wider you go, the more risk of injury, especially to the shoulders. Right, the closer your grip, it's a little safer, and you're basically stacking the joints better. Right, that's what it is. You're stacking the joints and placing them in a safer position, so the less risk of injury. Right, and that's what you got to think of too. Like, it's not just how much power can you generate, but how can you generate power long term without getting injured? Because okay, if you use a really wide grip and you are able to generate more power, but you increase your risk of injury, is the risk worth the reward? Maybe not, because if you get injured, your power is like a fart in the wind. It's gone, right? Because you're laid up nursing an injury. Whereas if you can stay injury free, then you can continue to train, continue to make progress week after week, month after month, right? And that's what we want. We want that long-term consistency, not that short-term intensity. But you can play around with your grips too. Like, that's another thing. You can train the different grips. Like, you can set records, like on a close grip bench press, on a medium grip bench press, on a wider grip. Like, you can have almost treat it like a different exercise, right? Like, and say, okay, this is my personal best for a close grip bench. This is my personal best for a medium grip and a wider grip. Same with squats. Like, you can change it up. Like, hey, this is my personal best for a wide stance squat, for a medium stance squat, for a high bar, for a low bar. Like, you can take the exercise and break it down into different components and really focus on building up all the different aspects of that exercise. All right, what else we got there? Second, guys, I got a sip of water. Wet the whistle. We have Axel joining in. I'm trying to combine Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with my lifting. My main focus is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so I train 3 to 4 times a week and supplement that with 2 gym sessions, upper and lower. So sometimes I feel really overtrained. Help. Yeah, makes sense. And I can appreciate that. I mean, I used to do some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu back in the day. I was involved with martial arts back in the day as well, different forms like Kung Fu. I did some MMA training back in the early 2000s as well. But bottom line, what I want you to think of is think of your whole training program. And I'm just going to move this for a second. Think of your whole training program as you have 100% recovery or 100 units of recovery. Let's say that you have 100 units of recovery. It's not like you have 100 units of recovery for weight training and 100 units for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You have 100 units total. So how are you divvying that up? If your main priority is the Jiu-Jitsu, then maybe you want to divvy up 70% of your recovery for Jiu-Jitsu training and 30% of your recovery for weight training, or maybe 60-40 or however you want. But bottom line, you got to factor that in there. Like, how are you going to divvy that up? And if you need to scale back accordingly. So either scale back on the Jiu-Jitsu or scale back on the weight training on those days that you're feeling overtrained, right? So first off, 3 to 4 days a week with Jiu-Jitsu, that's a lot, right? Because Jiu-Jitsu is freaking hard on the body. Now, again, I don't know how hard you're pushing yourself. Like, is this full on sparring? Is it more technical work? What it is, but you either scale back the volume with that, or you scale back the intensity. So you do maybe you do 2 harder days, 2 easier days, or something along those lines. But you got to scale back somewhere, especially if you're feeling overtrained. Same when it comes to the workouts. You can still, if you want to try to do 2 gym sessions, you can either scale back the volume or the intensity of those gym sessions. Or if you're really pushing the Jiu-Jitsu, maybe even combine it and just do 1 total body workout a week instead of 2 upper lower workouts there. All right. So bottom line, you got to factor in that and see where your sweet spot is, where you can actually recover and still make progress. Now, it might only be a short-term thing. Like, sometimes we're pushing the limits of overtraining. It's just technically referred to like as overreaching. And if you just do a deload for a week or 2, you kind of recharge the batteries and you can keep going. You can keep doing your 3 to 4 Jiu-Jitsu sessions and still do your 2 gym workouts and probably feel fine. But if this is kind of like a chronic thing where, like, man, you're always feeling like you're running on empty, right? You're dragging your heels all the time. You're never feeling fully rested. Then you're going to have to scale things back. Another thing to consider as well, which could have just as big of an impact, if not more of an impact, rest, meaning like your sleep schedule. Like, are you getting to bed at a decent hour? Are you getting good quality sleep? What's your nutrition like? Like, sleep and nutrition can have a huge impact on the overtraining symptoms. Like, even if you're pushing the pedal to the metal with your training, if you're getting good quality sleep and you're fueling your body and getting adequate nutrition, you can usually keep going at a higher level. Whereas if you had subpar sleep and subpar nutrition, you're going to overtrain much faster. So you got to look at the big picture here, right? But, bottom line, I mean, you got to scale back somewhere. Scale back the training somewhere, right? That's what I would recommend for sure. I mean, I know it's a challenging thing, and it's not like there's a one-size-fits-all answer here, because your situation is unique, your goals, your fitness level is unique. That's why I'm not a big fan of when you sometimes, for example, like you go in on maybe a Facebook group or just do a random Google search or something, and people start spitting out generic recommendations. Oh, do this, do that, cut back, eat this many calories, do this. It's a general guideline, right? Like, you got to factor in your own individual circumstances, your own individual fitness level. And you could have 2 totally different people who have different work capacities, and what works for one may not necessarily work for the other, right? So that's where having a coach in your corner who can kind of guide you along the lines with this can really help. And this is stuff that within our whole VIP coaching program, like, even though there's a lot of similarities, everyone has their own unique situations and circumstances, and you will see those differences really play out right within that. I mean, it's not like we just cookie cutter. Everybody's got to do the same workout, eat the same food, you know, because we all have different situations, different lifestyles, different stressors, right? So, I mean, you can't just blindly follow someone's program and expect it to work for you. You really have to tailor it to your own situation. But again, hopefully those suggestions can give you some feedback there. And if you want to elaborate on it, feel free to reach out to me. Drop me a message or send me an email or whatever. We can chat about it. I can share some of the stuff that I used to do, to help maximize my recovery as well. Paul saying, do you ever miss your prime years when you had freak strength, or are you happy with this stage of your life? Your 445-pound bench is impressive. Yeah, I mean, I can appreciate that. I enjoyed all the different phases of my fitness journey. I mean, like from the early days, like even let's just backtrack. We were just talking about martial arts. I mean, like my fitness journey actually started with martial arts, and I enjoyed that. Like all through high school, I was involved with martial arts. That was my main priority. Then in high school, I got involved with bodybuilding, and that was my main priority. And I loved going through that journey. Then I got involved with powerlifting, and I did that for a while, and I enjoyed that journey. And I kind of bounced back and forth. Bodybuilding and powerlifting were done kind of simultaneously. Like off-season bodybuilding was in-season powerlifting, and vice versa. So I kind of combined the two of them together. And that, I mean, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed being big and strong for sure. I mean, now you could say freak strength. I mean, that's all relative, because I remember when I did my personal best bench press, I remember doing it. It was 445, and I weighed 220 pounds at the time. So it was a double body weight bench press. And I mean, I was happy because that was a big goal of mine. I wanted to do a double body weight bench press. But at the same time, I was still feeling inadequate and pissed off because I knew other guys at the gym who could bench. There was one fella that who I knew through powerlifting at the time, and he had just hit a 500-pound bench press. So, I mean, even though, I mean, it was the most I ever lifted, and I should be ecstatic, like, wow, this is huge. This is a massive personal record and everything else. I was like pissed off. Like I did the 445, and all I could think of is I got to get 500. I got to get 500. Like I didn't actually savor it and enjoy it, if you will. It was kind of, looking back at it now, I mean, like I can appreciate it a lot more, but at the time I didn't really appreciate it for what it was. But now, I mean, I'm at a different stage of fitness, and now it's more of overall health and fitness, but mainly, I mean, I'm doing a lot more endurance training, and I'm competing in our local cycling races, and that is so much fun too. I mean, I enjoy the challenge of that, and I'm actually in better cardiovascular shape than I've ever been in. Like I've got more cardiovascular fitness and a higher VO2 max than I ever did, even as a young man. So, I mean, you go through phases in your fitness journey, and I enjoy it. I enjoy them all. I mean, I can't say that one was better than the other, or one is more respectable than the other. I mean, like they're all respectable in their own rights, right? I mean, you look at like an elite level bodybuilder and an elite level cyclist. I mean, sure, two totally different physiques, two totally different training styles and everything else, but one is just equally as impressive as the other. Right? Like the bodybuilder couldn't do what the cyclist does on the bike, and then the cyclist couldn't do what the bodybuilder does in the gym. So you can't really, it's like apples and oranges. But I gotta say, I enjoy all the different phases of my training. I really do. I mean, I enjoy what I'm doing now. And would I want to go back to the bodybuilding? No, not really. I mean, I'm having fun doing what I'm doing now. I really am. And the thing is I find it's a lot healthier the way that I'm structuring my training now. It's a lot healthier on the body in terms of keeping the weight lower, body weight that is, and keeping my cardiovascular fitness more of a priority. I find that is just more suitable for me at this stage of the life. And, I'm enjoying the journey, taking it day by day. And who knows where it's going to end up. I mean, if we're having this conversation, 5-10 years from now, there might be another stage or adventure that I'm on. Who knows, right? I'm open-minded to that, right? The next chapter, so to speak. Let's see what else we got there. Another question here. What's your outlook on Mike Mentzer's one all-out set to failure on each exercise? I'm not a fan of it personally. I have utilized that style of training in the past, especially, back in the 90s when Mike Mentzer was all over the magazines. And of course, Dorian Yates was the reigning Mr. Olympia, and he was kind of promoting that style of training as well. It can work. I mean, let me just zoom out here. Anything that you do consistently can work, right? Like, principles are what matter. Like the methods, they can vary. Whether it's, hey, I'm doing a high intensity, low volume, I'm doing a high volume program, I'm doing, a bro split, I'm doing an upper lower split, I'm doing a push pull leg split. Like, the methods, the tactics, they can change, but the principles never change. The principles of training with progressive overload, the consistency, fueling the body, making sure that you're getting adequate protein to build and repair the muscle tissue, getting adequate sleep, rest and recovery, like all those core principles. That's what makes the biggest difference, right? Like, it's not so much the tactics or the method, if you will. Now, this is my opinion on the Mike Mentzer all out one set to failures. Is okay, it may work, it may maximize muscle growth and stimulation in that one all out set, but the risk of injury is very high, right? When you're pushing and you're trying to get everything out of that one set, sometimes people go above and beyond, train to failure and beyond to try and maximize muscle stimulation. And the risk to reward very often is not in your favor, right? You can easily get injured. I mean, I got injured training like that. Like, I've torn muscles, I've had setbacks with my training, and it was usually related to just being ego lifting, if you will, like pushing too much too soon. Whereas if you had more of a laid back attitude with it, if you will, like, hey, I don't need to kill myself in this single set. I can live to lift another day. Think bigger, think long term. You can avoid a lot of injuries, and it's the long-term consistency over the short-term intensity, which is going to make the biggest difference in your progress over the long term. So personally, I don't recommend that. Like, when I'm coaching people, and even with my own workouts now, when we get to the point where you start to grind with the work, like with you're doing a workout and like you're getting to the point in the set where it starts to become a grind and your form starts to break down, in the set. Like, it's not worth to kind of push to failure and beyond, because sure, you may get that rep, you may grind it out and truly maximize the muscle stimulation, or you might tear the muscle or tear a tendon or a ligament or screw something up. And okay, if you tear something, I mean, you're screwed. Like, you're set back for weeks, months, or God knows how long it could be. I mean, you may never fully recover depending on the degree of the injury. But if you stop a set short of failure, big deal. Like, nothing's going to happen. Like, you can still go and train the next day. Like, life goes on. If you end a set short of failure, nothing happens. Like, there's nothing, no setback, and you'll still be able to make progress. Like, you can still train in a progressive overload fashion by keeping a rep in reserve, right? So it's a much safer and sustainable way to train. And it's actually a more enjoyable way to train, because you're not dreading your workouts thinking, man, I got to dig myself like so deep here. I got to go and empty the tank for every single set, every single workout. You actually go through it feeling less stress and less anxiety about the workouts, and you're able to train more consistently. And I think it's a safer and more enjoyable way to go about it, right? So I'm not a big fan of it. I mean, I have used it and I did make progress with it, but I've also had injuries with it as well. And I think from a practical point of view, it's not the optimal method to use, right? I would rather a more sustainable, safer, and something that allows you to be consistently good versus occasionally great. All right, let's see what else we got there. Axel saying, he says, I work night shifts, and I work shifts, including nights, and I'm a father too. So it's just really hard to balance it all. And that's a follow-up question to where were we to there? I know I lost my place here. Well, That was the BJJ question. Yeah. So if you're feeling overtrained, I mean, it could be the workouts for sure, and you may want to scale back. Like what I would recommend for the next little while, again, three uh, BJJ sessions a week, and then do maybe cut back to one total body workout a week, and just do that for the next month and see how you feel. I mean, that might be enough extra recovery to allow you to balance it. And but here again, working the odd shifts and stuff like that. Anytime you can prioritize extra sleep, extra power naps, and any bit of extra rest and recovery that you can squeeze in there, make it work. I mean, I know it's not optimal, it's not ideal. I mean, but any extra rest and recovery can go a long way, right? I mean, like say that those afternoon power naps, I know some people think, oh, that's a sign of weakness. That can actually be a great recharge for your batteries. And I do it too sometimes. Like if I feel I need it, I have no problem lying down, taking a little power nap. In fact, I took one this afternoon and I felt great afterwards. So yeah, I mean, the little things like that can go a long way to maximizing your rest and recovery and just making you feel better overall. We got Neil joining in. It says, want to hear your detailed thoughts about the more muscle you have, the more calories you burn, and if this is true or not. Absolutely, sure. I mean, it is true. I mean, the more muscle you have, muscle is your metabolically active tissue. So, someone who is more muscular is going to burn more calories at rest, right? Now, this is what we got to factor in, because when it comes to calorie expenditure, activity can burn a lot of calories. Like I'll give you a prime example. If you look at like an endurance athlete, like a long distance cyclist, runner, triathlete, someone who's burning up massive amounts of calories, they could be small, have a slender frame, not a lot of muscle mass, like especially by bodybuilding standards, but they can burn a ton of calories just through the sheer activity. Like someone doing like an Ironman, for example, like they might burn through 10,000 calories in an Ironman race. But a bodybuilder, someone who's got a lot of muscle on their frame, they're going to burn through a lot more calories at rest because muscle is metabolically active tissue. I mean, you can almost look at it like if you had like a 4-cylinder car idling away, or you had an 8-cylinder muscle car idling away. Like what's going to burn more fuel? Obviously, the bigger the engine, the more fuel is going to burn, right? So the same thing applies with muscle, right? The more muscle you have on your frame, the more calories you are going to burn. But then you have to factor in the other elements as well, like the activity level. Like if a bodybuilder is more sedentary, and what I mean by that is like your activity is, hey, I go to the gym and I work out for an hour and I do that 3 days a week, versus an endurance athlete who's hammering out, multiple hours a week doing high volume training. The endurance athlete may burn more total calories, but it's because of their activity, not necessarily because of the amount of muscle on their frame, right? So you need to factor that in there as well. Like there's a lot of variables that come into play, but the general rule of thumb, I mean, more muscle, more calories you're going to burn, especially at rest. Right? Muscle is burning calories 24/7, whereas activity is only burning calories during the activity and in the brief period of recovery afterwards. Right. Who else we got there? We have Paul saying, I find high intensity but low volume works well. Train to failure for 2 sets and exercise, but 12 to 14 sets per workout, and go for more weight or an extra rep each week. Don't need 5 sets and exercise. I agree with you there. I mean, unless you're training specific technique work, or I'm thinking like in the like from a powerlifting point of view or something like that, where you're trying to hone in the technique and you're doing multiple sets of low reps to really train certain aspects, like that's different. But from a bodybuilding point of view, yeah, I mean, like if you did 2 working sets per exercise, you could certainly maximize muscle stimulation. And I would rather 2 working sets to failure or just shy of failure versus 1 all out set to failure and beyond, because you're less likely to get injured by just stopping at the point where you're hitting failure or the point where your technique is breaking down, versus trying to push beyond that. And that's something we got to look at. Like, what's the true definition of failure? I mean, I know there's kind of a gray area, but a lot of times when you see guys in the gym training, their definition of failure is when they can't move the weight. Like, I'm doing a bench press, I'm stapled to the bench, and I got to yell help for a spotter to deadlift this barbell off my chest. I hit failure. Whereas technically, you hit failure at the point where your form starts to break down. So if you're not in total control of the weight, or you have to bring in other muscles to assist the lift, like you have to arch and lift your ass off the bench, or you're not in perfect alignment when you're pressing and you're grinding it out, technically you've already hit failure. Your form is breaking down, right? Once you get to the point where the form is breaking down, you've hit failure. Like, you should end the set, or even preferably even stop the set before you get to that point, so that you don't risk the injury. But if you did 2 sets training close to failure like that, you could get all the muscle stimulation without the risk of injury of going to failure and beyond. See what else we got there. Deal saying, how do you know when you've reached your natural maximum muscle building potential? That's a tough one. And, it's really a hard call for sure to know for where is that natural limit, because there's probably always room for improvement. There's probably always a way you can optimize things. Like, how many people do you know, like, have the perfect diet, the perfect sleep schedule, the perfect lifestyle, the perfect, all the little nitty gritty details dialed in perfectly, and not just dialed in perfectly, but done so day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out, for prolonged periods of time. Very few people. Most people are sub-maximal in a lot of areas. So how do you know when you've truly maximized it, right? It's hard to know, because very few people are actually going to get to that level where they're even close to maximizing it. Like, the shit is going to hit the fan, if you will. Life is going to throw curveballs your way. I mean, just think of people in your own personal life, when you're talking about like fitness and working out. Like, how many people say, oh, I got busy, but I got to get back to the gym again, right? I haven't worked out for the past 2 weeks, right? Or, oh, they got this on the go and that on the go, but my diet's been out the window. I've been eating like crap for the past couple weeks. Like, whenever you're in these suboptimal situations, then you're not maximizing anything, right? So again, how do you know when someone's hit their natural peak? I guess if you've been truly hitting your workouts consistently, hitting your nutrition consistently, consistently getting 8+ hours of sleep each night, just doing all the things that you should be doing day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, for an extended period of time, yeah, maybe you could theoretically hit your maximum potential there. But it's really hard to know, right? And of course, the thing is that's going to vary for everybody as well, because where someone's potential could be totally different from someone else's, right? So it's really a guess at best, right? I mean, if there's something you want to elaborate more on within that question, feel free to do so. But again, the simple answer to that is, I don't know. And I don't think anybody truly knows, because, there's so many variables involved there. We've got Jeff joining us. Says, I have a question. I took a week off the gym, came back today, and noticed I was weak as shit. It's the first time I took a week off. Fair enough. And that's not uncommon. I mean, that doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, it's amazing how your body can decondition very quickly, right? Now, there's a fine line there, because when you get adequate rest and recovery, you come back usually feeling stronger. But then if you go beyond that adequate rest and recovery, you actually start to decondition. Now, it's not a big setback. Like, I'm sure you give yourself a couple workouts, like after a week back to the gym on a regular routine again, you'll probably have your old strength and energy levels back to normal again. But it is normal to have your strength and energy fluctuate. And it may not even be directly related to taking the week off the gym either, because your strength and energy fluctuates regardless. I mean, like, I'll give you an example. Some mornings you probably wake up and you bounce out of bed, say, man, I slept great. I got a lot of energy. Boom. I can't wait to get the day started, right? You jump out of bed full of energy, full of piss and vinegar and ready to go. Other days, the alarm goes off and you're like, oh my God, I don't want to get out of bed. I'm just exhausted. I'm tired. Blah, right? I don't want to do anything. Right? I just want to hit the snooze button and call it quits. The same applies with your strength in the gym. Some days you're going to go in there and you're going to feel strong. You're going to have a great workout. You're going to power through it. Other days you're going to be dragging your heels. And that may not even be related to taking a week off the gym. I mean, that's just normal. We're all going to have fluctuations, highs and lows with our energy. So who knows? You might have just had an off day for some reason. Maybe your next workout, you'll go back feeling strong and energetic, but it's normal. Like, and don't take it personally or don't read too much into it. Like, just take it in stride. What I want you to read into is the trend, right? It's almost like if you're looking at the stock market, like, you know, the day-to-day fluctuations, it's going to be highs and lows and highs and lows, but where's the trend heading? Like, is it heading upwards? Is it heading downwards? Like, where is the trend? And that's what you got to look at with your nutrition and your training and everything else, is like, where's the trend heading? Sure, there's going to be ups and downs and fluctuations along the way. Some days you're going to feel good. Some days you're going to feel bleh. But over time, like, are you getting stronger? Are you making progress towards your goals? If you are, keep going. You're on the right track. If you're not, or if you're getting weaker over time, like, hey, I felt like crap today. Next week, still feeling like crap. Strength isn't even going up. It's actually going down. Like, hey, I'm not even able to match the same numbers that I was doing a couple weeks ago. What's on the go here? That's when you kind of have to really do a reevaluation. But if you're seeing the general trend moving in the right direction, don't get distracted by the temporary highs and lows along the way. Like, that's just part of the journey. And again, there's so many variables that could come into play for that. It might not necessarily that you're doing anything right or wrong. It's just the way your body's responding. But it's not abnormal. I'm not surprised by that. I mean, I go through days where I feel energetic and days where I just like ain't feeling it today. Let's see what we got. What we got? Johnny's saying fit for 60 or fit for nothing in my case. Okay. Hopefully you're fit for 60. 2 years perspective. Gotcha. Thank you, boss. Your advices are too. Good stuff. You're welcome. Deal saying, do you weight measure and track all your food for the day, and do you recommend it? I have, but no, I don't. I'm very at the stage now where I'm intuitive with my eating, and I know that doesn't sound very scientific or whatever, but it's a lot more sustainable and practical. And this is generally how I recommend nutrition for a lot of my coaching students. If you want to kind of go through the full cycle of it, if you're brand new to nutrition, and what I mean by brand new is like you've never counted calories, you've never tracked macros, you have no idea what you're eating other than I'm hungry, I eat, my belly is full, I'm happy. Like, if that's your extent of nutrition, which it is for like 90% of the people out there, like that's the extent of nutrition. Like, they have no idea how many calories or macros or what they're eating other than, hey, this tastes good and I eat until I'm full. Right? Like that's nutrition for most people. So if you've never done any of that stuff, I would recommend, yes, start tracking your food, start recording it, keep a food journal, figure out exactly what it is you're eating, and bring it to conscious awareness, not just mindless eating. And that is a huge step in the right direction. And then, get yourself a food tracker. Like, I mean, the most popular ones like MyFitnessPal, but there's a gazillion food tracker apps out there these days. I mean, back in the old days, we used to have to get the old calorie counter books. I don't know if I still have one here kicking around. I probably do, out on the bookshelf somewhere. But the big old calorie calculator books where you had to do it manually. But now, MyFitnessPal and these different apps, or heck, even just go on Google and search for the foods you want. You can get all the nutritional information, track it, write it down, weigh it, figure out like, hey, how many calories am I eating? How much protein, carbs, fat am I getting in? Like, just kind of get an idea of it. And that is a huge step in the right direction. Like, that will teach you so much about nutrition to make you aware of what you're actually eating. And then what you'll find is as you start to get into a routine, like if you're tracking calories, tracking macros, and you're trying to stay within certain targets and guidelines, you're going to start to develop some habits and routines. Like a lot of your meals are going to be similar from day to day. Now, yes, there's going to be variation and stuff, and it's okay to have variation, but you're generally going to get into a routine. Like we are creatures of habit. You're probably going to have a similar breakfast routine, a similar lunch routine, and dinner routine. Sure, the specific foods may vary, but the routine, the principles are going to stay the same. Once you get into that routine, then you can kind of let it go by autopilot, if you will, and just focus on the routine and see how your body's responding. And if you're happy with the results, then you can kind of let go of the strict nutrition tracking if you want, and just go by the bigger picture of how your body's responding. Like, hey, am I maintaining my weight at a level that I want? Am I maintaining my energy at a level that I want? Am I feeling good? Am I feeling satiated? Am I enjoying the process? And that's kind of like where I'm at now. Is like I'm I'm not trying to gain or lose weight. I just want to maintain my weight while improving my athletic performance, right? So that's my main goal now. So I will adjust my food intake based on my activity levels, but I'm not strictly weighing, tracking, measuring, recording every morsel of food I eat, right? Like on the days I'm more active, I'm going to eat more. The days I'm less active, I'm going to eat less. But I kind of go intuitively with it. Now, I do have some default habits, like every single meal, there has to be a serving of protein. Every single meal, there has to be a serving of vegetables, has to be some complex carbs there, healthy fats. Like all the principles are there in place, but I'm not strictly stressing out, oh, was that 5 ounces of chicken or 6 ounces? Or, oh, did I, did I hit, 3,000 calories today, or was it only 2,900 calories today? Oh, I'm not stressing out over that, right? I'm just focusing on the big picture perspective with the nutrition. Sure, some days are going to be a bit higher, some days are going to be a bit lower, but it's a lot more sustainable and enjoyable, and it doesn't really feel like I'm on a diet that way. Right? And it's working because I'm looking at the progress. Like I look at the big picture, like, hey, is my weight staying where I want it to be? Is my strength and energy, am I able to recover from the workouts? Am I able to perform? Am I able to get through those sessions the way I want to? And as long as those metrics, like the athletic performance is going up, the weight is staying stable, all those metrics are in check, I'm good. If my weight starts to climb unexpectedly, like, hey, I'm gaining weight and I don't want to, I'm going to break out the nutrition tracking and really dial it in and say, okay, where are we screwing up here? Like, we got to get this under control. But as long as it's staying where I want it to be, I don't stress over the numbers. Right. So that's kind of like a big picture perspective of how I like to focus on nutrition for most of my coaching students. And I find that works really well. And then we can always, when we go off the rails, if you will, if things start to go in the direction we don't want it to head to, like you're gaining weight and you don't want to be gaining weight, then we can break out the nutrition tracking and get more strict and dial those numbers back. Is eating a wider variety of protein better than focusing on a few sources, or it doesn't really matter? I'm a big fan of having a wide variety of food, and not just from a protein point of view, but from a all well-rounded point of view. I mean, that applies when it comes to vegetables and fats and carbohydrates and everything. I do like to include a variety, but we are creatures of habit, so you're probably going to be eating a lot of the same things. And sometimes you have to look at it from a convenience and a practicality point of view as well. Like there's a reason why bodybuilders tend to eat a lot of chicken. And the reason for that is because chicken is one of those foods. I mean, it's kind of boring and bland in a way, but it's something you can eat repetitively and it's very convenient. Like you can eat chicken cold, you can eat chicken left over. Yeah, I mean, obviously you can still eat it fresh, and freshly prepared, but it's very versatile. Whereas steak, for example, like eating a leftover cold steak isn't very appetizing. It's like chewing on a piece of shoe leather, right? It's not the ideal leftover food. Whereas like a leftover chicken breast, it's still palatable, right? So there's a reason why you see like a lot of bodybuilders have like chicken as a staple food source, is because of the convenience factor and because it's something that you can eat in the quantities needed to get the protein in there. But I still recommend having other sources. So for me, like my favorite protein sources, I have whole eggs and egg whites. I usually use a combination of both. I have dairy products like Greek yogurt and cottage cheese, chicken, fish, beef. Those are kind of like the main ones. I also have protein supplements like protein powders and protein bars. Those are kind of like my staples. I mean, every now and then we may change it up where like you get different types of protein. Like, okay, we'll get turkey instead of chicken, or we'll get different types of fish. Might get bison instead of beef or stuff like that, or wild game, or so. I mean, it may change it up, but I try to have different sources and not just like getting 200 grams of protein from chicken every day. Like I like to get my 200 grams of protein from a variety of different sources, because you're getting different nutrition, meaning like different vitamins and minerals and things like that. You're also getting different amino acid profile. And I just think from an overall perspective, it's better to have that than eating the same thing over and over again. Like I was never a fan of like, oh, chicken and rice and eating that for like, that's your only meals for like weeks or months on end. Right. I would much rather see someone eat a variety of different food sources than eating the same ones over and over and over again. Right. But either way, I mean, like, you can kind of make an argument for one or the other. I mean, I would much rather see someone eat chicken, broccoli, and rice on a consistent basis than eating processed food on a consistent basis, right? But there's always ways to like dial it up another notch. All right, we've got Mark joining in. Good afternoon, Lee. How's it going? I'm doing well, my friend. Hopefully you're doing well. Oh, Mark's on a massive weight loss journey. We did a podcast a couple months ago where he shared his weight loss journey, and he's making progress by the week. Looking forward to chatting with you again, seeing how things are going since our last check-in. Who else we got there? We got Danny joining in from over in Wales. Welcome, Danny. Glad to have you joining into our chat. Who else we got there? What are your thoughts on the government of Nova Scotia banning people from hiking and camping? For those of you who are in Atlantic Canada, you know we're currently going through a dry spell, and this is something that Atlantic Canada, like Newfoundland and Nova Scotia and the Maritime provinces, don't normally deal with, but we have some wildfires that are out of control. We have some serious fires here in Newfoundland, like literally just, the next community over, there's a wildfire, and I know several people personally who had to be evacuated from their homes because of the wildfire. And personally, that this is just me shooting shit here. I mean, I have no evidence to back up what I'm saying. People hiking, camping, all that stuff, that's not what's causing wildfires. I full on believe that these are being intentionally set, and to ban people from going into the woods. I don't think that's going to have any impact whatsoever on the wildfires. That's just my opinion. Right. But anyway, we'll leave it at that. I think that all those fires, if truth be known, they were intentionally set, not just accidentally set, if you know what I mean, or accidentally happened by freak of nature. Now, I could be wrong on that, right? I've been wrong before, and I know I'll be wrong again in the future, but that's just my gut feeling. And I can tell you right now, people who are out camping and going hiking, especially, like, give me a freaking break. You mean to tell me that someone hiking in the woods, their feet are going to be rummaging through the ground so fast and hot that they're going to spark up an ember and burn down the forest from hiking? Give me a freaking break. I mean, I know how frustrating that must be for people in Nova Scotia, but you know what? I could see the same thing happening here in Newfoundland very, very shortly if they don't get those fires under control soon, right? They'll probably do the same thing. And it's like plucking at straws. Like you're not fixing the root problem, but you're just throwing random solutions out there, hoping that this is going to be the problem. Like one thing that they banned here is like people going down on a rocky beach and having a campfire on the beach. Like, someone having a fire on the beach isn't burning down a forest. First off, I mean, you're on the beach, right? A rocky beach. And anyway, I'm not going to go there. Right. Bottom line, I know the governments are trying to do their best, but they're barking up the wrong tree on that one. Lee, do you think you could kick most people's ass if you had to with your martial arts and lifting background? No, it depends on what you consider most people. I mean, most people I could just freaking outrun them, I guess. But no, I haven't trained martial arts in years, so like I'm not in fighting shape. Put it that way, right? I have no intentions of getting into a ring or getting into a fight. I mean, if I had to, I'd do my damnedest, but no, I don't consider myself a fighter at this stage. If I had to, I'd outrun people. Nice. What else? We got Brian joining in there. Lee, instead of music right now, listen to your live Q&A for motivation. Awesome, Brian. We actually had a chat with Brian there yesterday. We did a coaching call together. Appreciate it, buddy. Hopefully you're getting some value from it. Who else we got joining in? Johnny's joining in saying, if I'm on arms, I would do 12 times 3 to 4 sets, arm curls, preacher curls, seated dumbbell curls, plus forearm work, then chest work. Is that too much in one session? Wrong selection of combined muscle groups. If I'm on arms, I would do 12 times 3 to 4 sets, arm 12 reps, I'm assuming you means 3 to 4 sets of arm curls, preacher curl. It depends on the I'm just going to talk about that in general. Like, when someone says like, hey, this is my workout routine, I'm doing X number of sets and body parts and whatever. Is that too much? Is that good? Is that bad? It depends. It depends on you, your fitness level, what you're training for. Like, if I was having a conversation with a competitive bodybuilder who was trying to peak for competition, the conversation and the workout that we would be discussing would be totally different than someone who says, hey, I haven't worked out in 20 years. I want to get back in the gym again. What do I do? Right? Like, I know that's an extreme example, like two ends of the spectrum, but it just goes to show, like, you can't just blindly say, hey, I do 3 sets of this and 3 sets of that. Is that too much? It depends on you. It depends on your work capacity, your fitness level, your goals, what it is you're training for. I mean, I'll give you a prime example. Like right now, I mean, I'm doing a lot of cycling. I'm getting ready for our provincial road cycling race that's happening now at the end of September. So in training for that, I'm probably going to be averaging about 300 kilometers a week on the bike, you know, somewhere between 15 hours of cycling a week, thereabouts. You know, I'm going to be spending about 15 hours a week on the bike training for that provincial road race. Now, if someone's never rode before, the idea of doing 15 hours a week on a bike would be just, you know, monumental overtraining. Like, there's no way they would be able to even handle that. Like, that would be like a good month, let alone a good week. So it's not right or wrong. It's just depending on the circumstances and the situation. So the thing you have to ask is, with your current workout, if you want to know, is it good or not? Are you making progress? How do you feel? Like, are you able to recover from that? Are you able to come back to the gym for your next workout feeling stronger and actually seeing measurable progress? Now, it doesn't always mean that you're going to see progress workout to workout, but like over time, are you getting stronger? Like, are you stronger now than you were this time last month, for example? Like, is there some form of measurable progress? Are you moving in the right direction towards your goals? If you are, then it's probably working. It's probably a good program. If you're not, you're kind of plateaued, or you're getting weaker, or you're moving in the opposite direction, then you probably need to reevaluate, right? So you can't just blindly say, this is overtraining, this is undertraining, this is too much, this is good, this is bad. It depends on the person and the situation, right? But to kind of put things in perspective, when I was training for bodybuilding, I would very often do my favorite style of training, especially with bodybuilding, was positions of flexion, where you do a mid-range, fully stretched, and a peak contraction exercise for each major muscle group. So most body parts, I would do 3 exercises, and I would do multiple sets of each exercise. So to kind of put things in perspective, for an arm workout, the mid-range could be like a standing barbell curl, right? Do that for 3 or 4 sets. Then the fully stretched could be a preacher curl. Do that for 3 or 4 sets. And then the peak contraction might be a concentration curl, or maybe it's something like a low pulley cable curl, or something where you really get a good peak contraction. Do that for 3 to 4 sets. So, it kind of mimics similar to what you said there, but then that is an advanced bodybuilding program that I would use when I was training for bodybuilding competitions. That's the style of training that I would use. Nowadays, I'm usually doing total body workouts, and I usually just pick 1 exercise per muscle group, but I will vary that up. So it's not like I do, even though I'm doing a total body workout, it's not that I'm doing the exact same workout every single time. I'll change up the exercises and rotate through them, but I usually just pick 1 exercise for each major muscle group. And that's what I find works well for me at this stage of the game, and it also works well for my schedule. Let's see what else we got there. I'm going to answer another couple questions, and then we're going to get ready to clue it up, because we're already past the hour mark, and I'm getting hungry. I don't know about you, but dinner's on the table, and I got to go feed the machine. Here's an interesting one. This is Justin saying, just returned to lifting after 5 years of not, and I still can't believe how strong muscle memory is. Started in March and already have deadlifted 405 and squatted 350 already. Cool, way to go. I mean, and that is a real thing. This, you've probably heard the term muscle memory, and all that means is it's faster to regain lost muscle or lost fitness than it is to gain it initially. Because in the initial process of gaining muscle, of building your body, increasing your strength, it takes a lot of work to lay that foundation, to build that new muscle tissue, to increase your strength, to get it to that level. But once you have that base, even if you take some time off and you get deconditioned, you can regain it back a lot quicker the second time around than it did to take you to get that level initially. So, I don't know how long it took you to build up to a 405 deadlift, but it probably took years, depending on the individual. It might have took you several years to get up to that level, whereas, coming back after a layoff, you can do it in a matter of several months, right? So, you can definitely regain lost fitness a lot quicker the second time around, which should come as a bit of a relief for those of you who've been around the fitness game for a while, that, even if something happens and you got to take a layoff or a break from training, or you get hurt and injured and there's a setback, it's not the end of the world, right? You can still come back and still make progress. And surprisingly, you can resume and regain your lost strength and fitness a lot quicker the second time around. How can I sweat more while lifting? I really don't break a sweat unless I do cardio. Why do you want to sweat? Like, there's no brownie points for sweating, right? Like, it's just a nuisance, if anything, right? And when lifting, the main focus is on lifting. like you're doing strength training, and it's a stop and go activity. Obviously, cardio is a non-stop activity. You're consistently moving, hence the reason you're sweating more. But that I wouldn't even worry about that. Like, I would focus just on increasing your strength and actually making progress with your lifting, and not obsessing over how much you sweat. Sweat could be more of a heat issue than an actual exertion issue, because if you're doing a workout in a cool, well air-conditioned gym, you're probably not going to sweat a lot. Whereas if you go out in a garage or something that's hot as heck in the summertime with no AC or no fan, you're probably going to sweat buckets regardless of what you do. Even if you do nothing, you're probably going to sweat buckets. So I wouldn't even concern myself or use sweat as any form of a measurement in terms of productivity with your workouts. It's just an an inconvenience nuisance that we have to deal with, right? If you want to sweat more, turn off the AC and crank up the heat and you'll sweat more if that's a goal of yours. But that's not going to actually lead to better muscle gain or any productive value with your workouts, right? Just focus on getting stronger, progressive overload. I mean, and if the sweat happens, the sweat happens, but I wouldn't go trying to make it happen. Why are current top bodybuilders using mostly only machines if it's common knowledge that free weights are more potent for muscle building? Is it a recovery thing? Um, that's an interesting question, and I know exactly where you're coming from, because generally speaking, like you look at a lot of the top pros training, they do tend to use a lot of machines. And the thing is, with bodybuilding, it's not strength training. All right. So you got to look at what it is they're trying to do. They're trying to maximize hypertrophy in the muscles. And sometimes you can actually do that better with certain machine exercises, because nowadays we have such a wide variety of machines and machines that hit different aspects of the muscles. So you can really isolate and target the specific muscle group that you want to work. Whereas with the big compound barbell lifts, you're hitting everything. Like, for example, like a squat. Okay, you can say squats are a leg exercise, but it's really a total body exercise, because you're engaged in everything from your shoulders, your back, your spinal erectors, your core, your glutes, your hamstrings. Like, everything is coming into play. Whereas if you wanted to target, say, the quadriceps, well, there's specific exercises that you can do to target just those areas. So you got to look at it like there's a reason why they do that. And a lot of times too is when you see top bodybuilders training, as in like YouTube videos and stuff like that, a lot of times they're doing it pre-contest and they're trying to fine tune their physique, right? So they're focusing on fat loss, they're in a calorie deficit. It's safer to train with machines, and they're really just trying to fine tune their physique. Like, they've already built the base, if you will, from years of training when they were younger. Now they're just trying to fine tune it. So that's why sometimes you will see bodybuilders using a lot of machine exercises in their training, especially the top pros when they're peaking. But I mean, they've probably done their share of heavy lifting, I mean, in the off season or in their younger days to build that foundation. But again, it goes back to what I was talking about before. Like, you really need to look at, like, what stage are you at in your training? Like, if you're focusing more on strength and conditioning and not necessarily bodybuilding, as in a competition bodybuilding, then yeah, sure, free weight exercises, body weight, calisthenics, kettlebells, that kind of stuff will build a better foundation of strength and conditioning. But if you're trying to fine tune a physique for a bodybuilding stage, you can certainly take advantage of the machines to do that. And also the risk of injury is much lower as well. So when they're in that calorie deficit, very low body fat, more susceptible to injury, it's a lot safer. So again, you got to look at the stage they're at in their training. And I can relate to that. Like, when I was competing in bodybuilding, like, my off-season training would involve more heavy compound exercises. Like I actually mentioned earlier in the chat, I was actually trying to, like, simultaneously doing powerlifting and bodybuilding. So my off-season bodybuilding would be in-season powerlifting, and then vice versa. Off-season powerlifting would be in-season bodybuilding. And I would complement them throughout the year. So, like, when I was heavier, carrying a bit more body fat and purposely trying to get bigger, I would train with the free weight compound barbell exercises, basically doing like powerlifting type of training. That would be my, mass building, base building stuff. And then when it came time for dieting down for competition, the closer I got to competition, the more I would utilize machine exercises. One, because it was easier, especially on a calorie deficit, but it was less risk of injury. And again, you're not going to build any new muscle tissue in a calorie deficit in the weeks leading up to a competition. You're just trying to strip off that excess body fat and bring out the muscle definition and detail. And sometimes it's easier to do that with machines. So again, it's not right, wrong, good, or bad. It's just different phases and different approaches depending on where they are in their phase of their training. But that's That's basically, in a nutshell, why you see that happen. All right. With that being said, guys, I'm going to get ready and clue this up. I know there's still a ton more questions coming through there now, but we're going to clue it up. And if I didn't get around to answering your question, if you've posted one, feel free to send me an email or message me through Facebook. I'd be more than happy to have a conversation with you through Messenger or through email. And if you would like some help with a personalized fitness and nutrition program, we can talk about that as well. So again, hopefully you got some value from today's conversation. I always enjoy doing these video chats. And we'll be back again now next Friday for another live at 5 video Q&A on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding channel. Have yourself a good one. Have yourself a great weekend. And I'll talk to you next week. Take care. Over and out.